We always say the gospel greats, the greatest songs about the greatest message, the gospel, and really that is the key.
I met Paul. I was working at a Christian school in the area, and quit that job about a week before we got married, and started working with Paul at the house. I have to say that when I was in college, I took business courses. That's what I was, my major. And then I went back to school and I took Bible classes and broadcasting speech classes because those were my interests. So I went back for what was my interest. Initially I was there for what would get me a job. And when I came to work with Paul, my secretarial skills have come in great. Broadcasting, my broadcast teacher, I was in Michigan, my broadcast teacher was Uncle Charlie from Radio Bible class, from Children's Bible Hour. And so that was my introduction into radio. Took speaking, took all those kind of courses, which have really been helpful in the people that I've met, not only in this job, but in other jobs. My experiences that I brought to this were various jobs I'd had. I'd had jobs in schools, a lot of them. I had been overseas for a couple of years, had come back to the States and came to Pennsylvania at that time. And being in the position I was in there as an administrator with volunteers under me, I met a lot of important people and high officials of the government. And that was wonderful training for meeting people that were gospel artists and could very easily intimidate me. So that worked out well. I came back to the States and wanted to do something in radio, which is why I was volunteering at the local station. So everything that I've done led up to what I do here. Absolutely everything. And I can only credit that to God knowing what would happen before it happened, and that He was putting together the experiences that would make Paul's personality and my personality, his experiences and my experiences, his talents and my talents go together. And just on a side note, if you look at Paul's and my personalities, we're exact opposites. You know, getting around people energizes me. Getting around people just kind of tires him. Both of us actually become much more outgoing when we're with each other. And he is a very planned out person, and I'm more spontaneous. Everything is an opposite. I mean, he likes yellow, I like red. Just opposite. But I think that just brings us together in a way that we can be a good team, and it's proved out both as a family as well as in our business relationships.
My earliest interest was in newspapers, and the news that was provided in newspapers. When I was in school, I was probably one of the only kids who devoted their allowance to a subscription to the second deadly local newspaper. And I did that, and we lived in York, Pennsylvania at the time. And so I was interested in newspapers and news. And of course, broadcasting is very much a part of news as well. And I was intrigued by television, by radio, especially radio. And the part of radio that really intrigued me was the production aspect of it, how things sounded on the radio, and the impact that radio could have over a wide area in a very short period of time. And so all of these things came together in what I'm doing now. And I feel very blessed that that's the case. So the early days, as far as my interest in radio, that all came together with television. And it's funny, here over the years I've done print work, I've done radio work, I've done television work, and now I'm doing this. And so God has allowed me to exercise all of those interests I had over the years.
I met Paul Heil when I was volunteering at a local Christian radio station, and he came into the station to bring a program. The DJ had told me he was coming, and I thought, yeah, right, he's coming. He's from Nashville. He's not coming up to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But I found out he was from Lancaster, and he came in, and I thought, oh, he's nice. He looks, if you look at Paul, he seems very serious, very settled, and he did at that point. And I thought, okay, he's probably married and has 2 or 3 kids, and that was my initial impression. He was a nice guy, but I didn't think beyond that. But at as I got to know him, I found out he wasn't married. But at a share-a-thon, I was taking phone calls for people to donate money to the station. And Paul was actually doing his program live that day. He would use some segments from it, but then he would do the other parts live. And as he was there, a listener called in and offered $25 for a date with the local DJ. And I was good friends with Clayton, and he said, well, it's for the station. Okay, I'll accept it. And I bugged him about that, kind of mercilessly. And as the day wore on, he said to me, he said, you know, Paul Heil's a little busier than I am, but I bet for $50 you could get a date with him. And I thought, oh yeah, right, okay, fine. So when I went to leave, my shift had ended. When I went to leave, Clayton said, now don't forget to make that phone call. And I went out of there, went to my girlfriend's house, and I thought, what do I have to lose? Paul Heil seemed like the kind of guy who, if he turned me down, he wasn't going to tell anybody. So I wasn't worried about that. And I'd only make a fool of myself in front of him, and I didn't know him that well. And I thought, what do I have to lose? So I got on the phone in her parents' bedroom, and I called the station and said, I want to make a $50 contribution to the station for a date with Paul Heil. And they said, hold on just a minute, I'll go get him. And I thought, oh no, I don't want to talk to him. I didn't even know him. So he came on the phone. I was just about ready to hang up. He came on the phone and said, so you want to make a contribution for a date with me? He said, why didn't you ask me when you were here? And I said, I didn't even think you knew who I was. But anyway, as we talked, he said, how about we make it more? And I said, no, I've already donated. This is over and above. And anyway, he ended up saying, okay, fine. He says, I'll give you back to the operator. She'll take your donation. And I got off the phone and I thought, what have I done? I don't know this guy. I was just like a nervous wreck. And my girlfriend, of course, thought it was absolutely hilarious. So I thought, I'm not calling him. I just am not calling him. So he called me. That was on a Saturday. He called me on Tuesday and said, would you like to go to Harrisburg for a concert with the brothers, the Jacobs brothers, and the Blackwood brothers? And so I went with him. He did his interviews. Of course, that's why he was there. He did his interviews. I went with him to the interview, and it was a great concert. It was a good evening, and I hoped he'd call me again. And that was in November, before Thanksgiving, and he called me for a date for New Year's Eve. So he kept me waiting a long time. And then we dated for that year and got married in December of the next year. So my initial impression was that he was married and had a couple kids, and really was a very not a great sense of humor, just a nice guy, but whatever. Well, I've learned later that he has a pretty good personality. And I don't think my calling that time was totally my personality, because I really was a lot shyer than what I am now. But I really think God had a hand in the whole thing, and I'm glad he did. And we've been married for 37 years. So it all worked out for the good.
Well, of course, the big influence, I don't know if there's any one particular person, other than God, of course, because I think He gave me the interest. And as He gave me the interest in doing this, He goes without saying, He had this in mind for me, I think, since the beginning. And so I feel very comfortable that we've been able to do the kinds of things that He wants us to do and gifted us to do. You know, when He calls somebody to do something, I believe He equips that person to do it. And as a result of that, I just feel very comfortable in doing what we're doing and feel that what we're doing is what we're supposed to be doing. Well, my original work was during college even. Actually, during my senior year in high school, I started working at a local radio station. And that, of course, just whetted the appetite for more radio work. When I get out of college, I worked all the way through school on the weekends at the local radio station. And so when I get out of college, they just happened to be forming a news department at the radio station where I had been. So I became news director, and we wound up building a news department for this radio station that had, I think, 4 full-time people and 3 part-time people, and that was sort of unheard of for local radio stations in those days. And we won statewide awards and everything. And a big emphasis was always in getting our own news and in using audio, using interview material, using what we called actuality, interview clips, and to keep it interesting for people. And I think all of that was helping prepare me for what I do now. Because with the program, with the Gospel Greats program, a lot of the program's special sound involves the interview clips that we use throughout the program. Not only on the news segment, which harkens me back to the old days of working news, but also throughout the entire program, and how those clips are edited for maximum impact, maximum clarity, which is the important part, so people understand what the artists are talking about when they're talking. So all of that helped me quite a bit. And then for 2 years I was a television news director, and that, I think, prepared me for working with a larger number of people, because we had a pretty good sized news department at the TV station. And it was while I was there that I felt like this Gospel Greats program was something I should do. And so I actually quit my job there at the TV station, and within 4 months or so, the Gospel Greats program started.